Welcome to Peculiar Tales with Dawn and Christy, the show where we dive into the stranger things in history, urban legends, ghost stories, and anything else we find, well, peculiar. I'm Christy.
And I'm Dawn. The following are the last words said from Amelia Earhart, July 2nd, 1937. We are on the line 157, 337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 6,210 kilocycles. The transmission itself was haunting, and what followed the transmission was an eerie silence. The silence was unnerving and dreadful. Amelia Earhart was now missing on a voyage that was supposed to prove a woman could cross the world with a woman pilot. In this episode, we're going to be looking at what influenced Amelia, as well as following the months, weeks, and days, and even hours that led to a haunting transmission that echoes through history and is now one of the world's biggest aviation disappearances. Amelia was a record breaker, a pioneer in aviation. Amelia pushed the limits. Not out of defiance, no, but out of curiosity, because deep down, we imagined she knew that there was more out there to life and what it had to offer. Not just for women, but for humankind. She had a drive that defined who she was and how she was going to define history. Get ready to hear of a mystery that for decades remained unsolved.
Amelia was born July 24th, 1897. Amelia showed that she was independent even in her younger years. Her childhood was spent playing outdoors by climbing trees and exploring. Adventure, it seems, was a part of who she was, even then. Amelia liked to play with science kits and even mechanical tinkering. Amelia had a spirit that even at a young age wanted and even needed curiosity and imagination to grow. Amelia's mother's name was Amy Otis Earhart, who did her best to encourage both her daughters in any offbeat interests they had. This was so that the girls could grow avoiding stereotypical gender expectations. The world that Amelia grew up in was male-dominated, and to be original or unique may have been challenging. In Amelia's teenage years, it has been documented that there was instability because the family moved a lot. Although all the moving gave Amelia opportunities to meet new people and see new places, gaining different perspectives about many things.
It was during the First World War that Amelia found a job being a nurse's aide in Toronto, Canada. Amelia cared for wounded soldiers. She met pilots and saw some planes up close. However, by the looks of things, these were the moments in her life that showed her what courage and extreme risk look like. It has been said that this is when she realized that regular people could do the most remarkable things. In 1920, Amelia saw an air show in Long Beach. Amelia had a short 10-minute airplane ride with pilot Frank Hawks. Afterwards, she said this about the experience. By the time I got 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly.
Flying was everything now, and it was not going to be cheap. Amelia had not only a dream of flying, but she had determination as well. Amelia held down many jobs to save for the flying lessons, and by 1921, Amelia was now taking lessons in flying from Netta Snook, who was in a minority of few female flight instructors of the time. Amelia's flight instructor was regarded by some as a significant mentor in her development. Inside a year, Amelia had purchased her first plane. It was a biplane that was bright yellow and named the Canary. It was with the Canary that Amelia practiced and honed in her skills as a pilot.
1922 brought Amelia recognition from setting a record in aviation for women. She reached an altitude of about 14,000 feet. It was now clear Amelia was serious and making a name for herself. And so, Amelia joined aviation communities, making it known that she was dedicating all her efforts in aviation for women and herself. When George Putnam was looking for a woman to join a transatlantic flight, Amelia was recommended as a candidate. She was becoming well known in the aviation community, and she was also recognized for her poise and what many described as a commanding presence in public. Amelia also became known for her short hairstyle and sensible clothing, traits that stood out as uncommon among the women of her era. Amelia pushed forward with calm, unwavering resolve. She did not seek attention or rely on drama to elevate herself. Amelia had a passion for progress, mechanics, and sciences. She was more than willing to take risks for the sake of making progress, even if that failure was publicly known.
And so, in 1928, Amelia was chosen to be on the Fokker F-7 Friendship. Amelia accompanied pilot Wilmer Stoltz and the mechanic Louis Gordon. Now, Amelia did not pilot this flight, but what she did do was become the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air. This made her a celebrity right away and opened opportunities for her solo flight in later years. Amelia later said about the flight that she felt like baggage, but did recognize all her hard work and effort had made it possible to even be chosen for this flight. After the 1928 flight, George Putnam became her agent and manager. A few years later, February 7, 1931, Amelia married George. A letter from Amelia stated that she did not want, quote unquote, a medieval code of fidelity, and was seeking something different. Some say that the marriage was less of romance and more businesslike. During that time, George was managing her books and lectures that she would do, and he also helped her by funding her projects that she was working on.
By the mid-1930s, Amelia was now a close friend to Jean Vidal, who was an official in aviation. This friendship continued while Amelia was married to George. There's been a lot of debate if the two were in a romantic relationship or not. This has never been proven. What is known is that Jean Vidal was a director of the Bureau of Air Commerce, and Amelia was playing a major role in the public's eye for aviation. The two of them were allies that worked well together, and because of this, the two worked frequently.
In 1936, Amelia was now planning her flight around the world. Purdue University financed the Lockheed Electra 10E for the flight. Amelia had a goal of not just to be the first woman to fly around the world, but the first woman to fly on a route near the equator, which now made the journey that much more difficult than any other route ever taken. No doubt the prize of winning all the respect from the world, as well as self-pride as a female pilot, would be worth all the effort. Amelia had set her mind to attaining this goal. To help navigate Amelia across the globe was to be navigator Fred Noonan. Fred possessed considerable skills in navigating the ocean. The possibilities were there for this dream to be a reality.
And in March of 1937, Amelia made her first attempt with Fred Noonan as navigator. Henry Manning was the radio operator, and Paul Mance was the technical advisor. The Electra departed Oakland, California, and arrived in Hawaii successfully. However, this mission was aborted when, after attempting to fly westward from what is now known as Ford Island in Hawaii, both planes' landing gears collapsed. You see, as the plane accelerated, it veered right. Although Amelia attempted to adjust its course, the aircraft sustained considerable damage, and it was ultimately sent to California for repairs.
Before Amelia made her second try, she and Noonan made a flight out of preparation. From May 20th, 1937 to May 31st, there were many stops across the U.S. From what we understand is stopping in Florida. Second attempt begins June 1st, 1937. The official departure was from Miami, Florida. This time, the route was from west to east, opposite from its first attempt. This is said to be because they wanted to take advantage of the prevailing winds. Amelia and Fred were on their way to making history together.
Between June 2nd and June 7th, they made multiple stops in South America.
Between June 8th and the 15th, Amelia and Fred made their way through Africa, making 4 stops.
From June 17th to the 21st, they made stops in the Middle East, India to Southeast Asia.
From June 24th to the 29th, the pair went on to Dutch East Indies and Australia.
June 29th, 1937, Earhart and Noonan arrived in Lae, New Guinea.
Now by this point, they had completed about 22,000 miles of the journey. The next leg was the most dangerous. The next destination was Howland Island, roughly 1.5 miles long and half a mile wide. To try seeing this in an open ocean was going to be difficult because of it being so small. To get to Howland Island meant they would have to fly over 2,526 miles of open ocean, so stopping there to refuel was critically important. Amelia remained calm, professional, and intensely focused. Before leaving, she spent hours checking the navigation charts, reviewing the fuel calculation, and coordinating radio procedures.
Fred relied on celestial navigation, meaning he used observations of the sun as well as dead reckoning, a method that estimates position based on speed and direction. On July 2nd, 1937, no one that watched that takeoff could know that this was going to be the last time anyone would see Amelia or Fred. Due to the cloud cover, Fred calculated line of position. The plan was to fly along the line 157-337 and search for the island. Amelia had limited radio direction and finding capability when the ship was unable to successfully get her signals.
The following timelines are approximate. At 12 a.m. on the 2nd, the plane was off, altitude reaching 7,000 to 10,000 feet, and everything was normal.
By 5:20 a.m., everything is okay. There is a routine position report done and 0 distress at this time.
At 6:14 a.m., reports indicate flying at 10,000 feet, possibly to improve visibility and navigation.
7:30 to 7:40 a.m., quote unquote, "We must be on you, but we cannot see you." This was very important because this shows that they were close to Howland Island. This also shows that there could have been a visibility issue or navigational error.
7:42 a.m. We are on the line 157-337, running north and south. This was the last clear understood message from Amelia. 8 a.m. to 8:43 a.m. We are running north and south. Signals are fluctuating, and there was no more contact after this sentence.
In the minutes and hours after the last transmission from Amelia, there were smoke signals, radio signals. The Itasca remained on full alert, listening continuously. Even after all of this, there was no confirmed replies from Amelia. Later on the same day, the Itasca began an immediate search. The search stemmed along the 157-337 line of position. Searches were conducted in the directions that Earhart had told of.
July 3rd to the 6th, ships and aircrafts arrived to help search in the area of Howland Island and the close-by Baker Island. With all the efforts of the searchers in those 3 days, There were no confirmed sightings of a wreckage or an oil slick. There was no confirmed sighting at this time.
July 5th to the 18th, the U.S. Navy led a search. They checked Howland Island, Baker Island, and the Phoenix Islands group. A total of 250,000 square miles were searched, with aircrafts launched daily to cover various ocean grids. Again, there were no confirmations on any sightings or findings. No evidence of Amelia, Fred, or the plane.
Circling back to the 2nd of July to the 7th, there were reports of radio distress signals that civilian radio operators were picking up, as well as Navy listening stations. There was no confirmation that this has been historically documented. By July 19th, the U.S. Navy concluded its search operation. January 5th, 1939, Amelia Earhart was legally declared dead.
So, when the plane was carefully loaded on the 1st and 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
there's thoughts that because it was loaded with 1,100 gallons of fuel and it had to go those 2,500 miles,
Mm-hmm.
that the heavy fuel was affecting how high the plane could go, like its performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some think that because of the weight of the fuel, that it burned more fuel,
Okay.
and that because it burned off too much fuel because of this in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
that this could have interrupted things.
And I mean, I don't know the calculations or how it works, but it was said that she spent a lot of time before they left making sure all the calculations would have been right. You think they
Mm-hmm.
would have accounted for, okay, we have enough fuel to get there, but it's going to make us heavier, so therefore we have to fly lower or we have to fly higher or however it works,
Yep.
right?
And then there was like the weather that day. So it was cloudy.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to actually leave on the 1st. Their schedule was that they were going to leave New Guinea on July 1st. But because of the weather, they stayed back the extra day.
Mm.
And so then when they left on the 2nd, it was still very cloudy,
It almost makes you wonder if they should have held out another day or if they were just too eager to continue on.
right? There was a schedule, and she was very professional about everything,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing to contradict the fact that Fred Noonan was also very professional. So maybe they were just very focused on getting this task done. They've already gone 22,000 miles.
Right.
They're feeling very confident. Everything seems to be fine with the plane.
Mm-hmm.
So at this leg of the and it was because it was the most dangerous.
Right.
This was the hardest part. If they could have made it past this, it would have done it,
It
no
would have been
doubt.
smooth sailing from there. Well, I mean, trying to land on an island that's what 1.2 miles,
Yeah, like 1.5 miles wide or long and
half a mile wide, like
crazy.
that's hitting a bullseye there in the middle of the ocean.
No, there was the ship, the Itasca, that was down there trying to signal them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were, from what I understand anyway, that they were to help her signal wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was happening, they could hear her clearly. Everything she was transmitting, they could hear,
Mm-hmm.
but she couldn't hear them.
Which makes you wonder, was there a faulty issue on her end, like with her sounds
Or the weather.
or the
Again,
weather
because now,
or
like, you got that cloud cover, and I mean, I'm no pilot and I don't know nothing about flying,
mm-hmm.
but could the clouds then be a hindrance on transmissions in 1937?
You would think probably, right? 1937, you're not running the same communications you are today.
And another conspiracy, well, maybe I shouldn't call it a conspiracy, but people thought that because she was stressed, she had to stay back the day because of the weather. It was going to be the hardest route to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is the hardest leg, that they left early in the morning. Now, information on this goes back and forth. Some people say she left New Guinea at 12 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and other people say no, she left at 10 a.m. So information out there varies.
Okay.
Okay, so I can't say which one was real. But one of the theories is that she was extremely tired. She was leaving way earlier than she did before. The plane was heavier. The weather was crap. There was stress because this is it.
Right.
So some people are saying she could have been fatigued, and fatigue causes problems.
Absolutely.
And then there was a story going out there so the Marshall Island. Now, there's people that say that the Marshall Island capture claims that Amelia and Fred were captured by Japanese forces and that they were taken to the Marshall Islands. Some people said that the islanders made claim that there was a female pilot and a man seen, and that the plane wreckage was present, but there's no documentation in Japan about a female pilot, about a man, and about a plane that was towed in.
But that's the other thing too, right? Like, if they captured them, how did they guide them to land? Why was there no distress call from Amelia stating, we have other planes on our tail, we're going down, and then they towed it in? There was no distress signals to make it seem like they would be in trouble.
Okay, so then that brings us to another theory. The Phoenix castaway theory is that when the plane went down, it went down on the Phoenix Island.
Okay.
Okay, and that's why there was no oil slick, because the plane landed on an island.
Okay.
There's reports that in later years, a British colonel found partial remains. He found a shoe that could have been a woman's shoe, and he found a sextant box.
Okay.
So initially, the remains were identified as male, but subsequently, researchers have argued that they could have been female. Now, the bones are now lost, so no one can do any DNA to see if it was male or female.
Right.
But circling back to the Marshall Island, some think that maybe it was Japanese forces that found them on that island,
Hmm.
took the plane, and took them. That
But
was
then
the end
why
of
would
it.
there be a body there if they took them?
I don't know. See, this is where the theories get jumbled up, right?
Right. And the other thing is too, like, no, we don't know if it was male or female. But maybe the first instinct that it was male could have been correct because it could have been Fred. And if people thought they saw a female pilot and a male pilot, well, female pilots would have been much more rare to see, but a male pilot, maybe not so much. So maybe the male pilot they claimed to see wasn't Fred, but
Right?
maybe Amelia was. That's just a theory, obviously.
Amelia's mother,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now she followed every news report and she never ever gave up hope that her daughter was alive.
Mm-hmm.
She just never felt like her daughter died. So she struggled. Her mother struggled with uncertainty all her life,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then there's people that say that there were signals that were heard from Hawaii and the US mainland and the Pacific ships in the area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hawaii's not relatively that far from Japan. So if people were hearing her from Hawaii,
Mm-hmm.
and people from Japan could have heard her too,
True enough. Yeah.
okay? As well as all these people were saying that in these transmissions that they heard in those days, those early days, it was a woman asking for help and mentions being on land and or near water. They say that the US Navy investigated many of these reportings in the early days because I
Mm-hmm.
mean, she had connections,
Right.
right? She was an aviator. She was respected
Well, you said what, 250,000 miles were searched?
within the first few weeks even.
Right.
They took it seriously, like where is she, right? They were
Right.
looking for her. But at the same point with all these reportings, because it was like average people, not just ships, it was average sailors and that were picking up transmissions, hearing a woman say, I need help,
Mm-hmm.
right? But nobody knew. When they heard those, they didn't realize it was Amelia.
Right.
They
If it
just heard a
was
woman.
Amelia.
if it was Amelia, right? And so what the US Navy concluded was that none of them could be confirmed. None. And that maybe they were either hoaxes by
Mm-hmm.
people saying they heard things,
Yep.
or it was a misidentified broadcast or radio interference.
Well, again, it's kind of like the whole sightings thing, right? You can't necessarily assume that what they heard is what they actually thought they heard, and how many people might have been using it for fame, I guess, in the sense of I heard Amelia on my thing saying she needed help.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that would be easy.
Right, exactly.
Because back then in 1937, it's plastered all over the
Mhm.
newspapers. It's, on radio programs. People are talking. People are worried. This is a big deal,
Right.
you know?
And there's no way to back up your story, so it'd be very easy to say, "Oh, I heard a woman on my radio say help. Don't know where it was transmitting from."
Yep. And
There's no
then,
way to check that.
no, because then I imagine like back then, it would be okay, so we've got these reports. They said they heard it at this time. They're located here.
Mhm.
These people said they heard this over. There'd be a lot of mathing going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
my opinion. Now, circling back to Japan in the
Mhm.
Marshall Islands, some of the locals in Saipan claim that Amelia died in captivity there and that she was buried in Saipan. So people went.
Mhm. Yeah.
People went there to check it out.
You'd
We're going
have
to go
to.
look. We got
Yeah.
to find her still. In later developments, they found that a grave was allegedly identified, but the excavations that they did didn't produce any confirmed remains. So even this story is unsupported.
Yeah.
There is a picture of Amelia on a dock, the early 40s, late 30s. It's a picture of a thin woman in practical clothing
Mhm.
with short hair, tall, and you see her from behind, and there's a man in the picture as well. Somewhere in Japan. I want to say when I looked at the picture, it was like on a dock.
Okay.
So some people ran with that and they were like, that could be her. The hope is still there.
Right. And it could be, but then that leads almost further away from the held captive thing. Because why is there just a picture of her standing on a dock if she's held
Then years later,
captive?
she's still in the same clothing.
That too.
You never know. I don't think they doctored photos in the early 40s. Maybe they did. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a convincing photo when you look at it. This is another theory, and I didn't know about this theory until I did research. But some think that she came back to the United States alive and that she assumed a whole new identity. The most famous identity was that she was called Irene Bolam.
Okay.
So, in reality, Irene she's like, listen, I am not Amelia Earhart, right? Like, listen,
This poor lady's like, I'm sorry I look like her.
right? People were like, you're Amelia Earhart. They wanted her to be alive so bad
Mhm.
that this poor woman had to file a lawsuit.
Oh my.
Yeah, she filed a lawsuit over it and proved that she is not Amelia. So this theory has been debunked
Yeah.
because could you imagine?
But also too, what would the purpose in that be? I mean, you are on the biggest flight that the world has been paying attention to, and you just decide to vanish and then go back to the US and be someone else? What's the purpose in that?
I don't know, because her whole life, from the time she was younger until she disappeared, was nothing less than adventure and progress and being the face of progress in aviation. How far can we push it? What can I do? How
That's what
can
I
we
mean,
elevate
though.
things literally? And to just be like, I want no one to know me.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It
It
doesn't
just
make
doesn't
sense
make
to me either.
sense.
But it was out there,
Yeah,
you know?
another one of the theories. Again, like you said, people want her to have made it so bad that they're looking, right? They're trying to
Yeah.
find somebody who resembles her, and maybe this is what happened, or maybe she this, or maybe she that.
Because, I mean, when you think about it, the absolute thought of, yes, somebody survived that horrible thing.
Hmm.
She made it. She's here. She's okay. Everything is right with the world again.
Hmm.
All that hope,
Yeah.
that says a lot about the world, that they just wanted her to be alive so bad.
Yeah.
So, with the ocean under her and uncertainty with it, Amelia sent out transmissions telling of where she was. And then it just went silent for the last time. Some say some of those sightings and radio transmissions was her. Some disagree. But what did stay was the conspiracies. In the end, Amelia did her best to achieve her goal. Who really knows what happened to her and Fred that fateful day? What is known is that Amelia carved a spot in history both for her efforts in aviation and in her disappearance. And as always, thank you for listening to us today. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to follow us on the platforms you listen to us on and leave a comment, rating, or review, as your support helps us reach more listeners. And until the peculiar calls for another tale, bye for now.